Arsenal are top of the league. Let's look at how they beat Tottenham in the North London derby. It was very entertaining, and what we saw is two teams with very different styles of play, very clear tactical identities. Arsenal playing this 4-3-3 possession-based football, trying to attack and control the pitch, whereas Spurs are trying to absorb it and exploit mistakes. That's what they want to do. Very, very clear, different tactics. Now, Arsenal, what they do is that we've seen them a few times play now, but they press high, they have a really high line, and what they always do in attack is get into the same sort of shape. So what they end up doing is having Saka is always wide right, hugging the touchline, and on the other side you got Martinelli doing exactly the same thing, and that pins back the opposition wing backs. So you have Royal and Perisic being pinned back. It's a very deep back five for Spurs. Then you have Gabriel Jesus in the middle, lots of rotations, something swapping with Martinelli. So as long as there's someone there, as long as there's someone here, you're fine. So Martinelli goes here, Jesus is in the middle, and then they've got these two eights. Xhaka was playing as a striker for a lot of this game, the furthest forward player, because Jesus would drop deep into midfield. Then Xhaka would go really tight and high up the pitch. So Jesus alongside Xhaka with Odegaard here. So you've got bodies in the box, wide players stretching the play and pinning the wing backs back, but then you have a crucial second line of control in the midfield. So Spurs with his back five would then have a middle four of Richarlison, Bentancur and Højbjerg with Son here. So you've got a back three protected by the four, and Kane have to come back as well. And that meant that Arsenal would have Partey, Ben White as a fullback playing inside the pitch. And the reason they're doing this, because it gives them control of this part of the pitch. So by keeping this three here, it means if there's a turnover and these anywhere around here, and Spurs want to break, they can't because Arsenal squeeze them and keep them high. So they play a really high line. So it means that if they're up here, if they lose the ball, they can then all swarm around it and try and win the ball back. That's part of the reason. But it's because Spurs want to be able to attack to make their front five. Spurs' front five they want to play is Perisic, Son, Royal, Richarlison, with Kane as well. So they want to be able to get from this position to this position very quickly, catch teams in transition, exploit mistakes like a turnover in possession or someone just not defending very well, because then Arsenal have to get players back like Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko as quick as they can to try and defend this. And that's when Spurs are at their best, playing in these quick transitions. That's what Conte's teams have always been good at doing, is exploiting those errors. And then you've got Bentancur and Højbjerg to protect the middle of the pitch, with Romero, Dier and Longley trying to look after this part as well, because then Arsenal have to retreat. And you saw in the first half that what happened with Spurs attacking this way was that if Arsenal had a high line, for Spurs the benefit is that there's a massive amount of space behind the lines and in the wide areas. So if there is a turnover and they can pass through the press, which is hard to do because Arsenal press very well, when they get into these areas there's just so much space so they can put the ball over the top, then someone like Kane or Son can get onto it and they can exploit it. But there's a bit of a lack of quality in the final third for Spurs in this game. Perisic had a chance in this kind of angle here that you put into the side netting. They had chances and they had clearer cut chances, I would say, in the first half. We didn't take them because they were exploiting the space that Arsenal were leaving, and it's inevitable that Arsenal will play like this. You can see it actually on the average position graphs that Opta makes. This is what it looks like. So Arsenal would have this sort of shape here, two wide players at the top, like a three, with your two eights in between. They would start out here, they receive the ball, then move inside. Then you've got Zinchenko, Partey and White as your middle three here with the two. And this is Saliba would sit the deepest, was Gabriel pushing the midfield sometimes to add an extra body there to try and overload them in the midfield. Whereas Spurs clearly trying to attack with a front five of Son, Kane and Richarlison there with the three with the wing backs. Now, if all your width and attack is coming from the wing backs, it's a big problem if you've got Saka and Martinelli so high up the pitch, keeping these guys pinned back. It makes it really hard to push that. So in the second half, you saw that Spurs tried to push forward a little bit more. A little bit later in the first half as well, once they've absorbed an awful lot of pressure, they try to push up. And the reason they want to absorb and keep it really back like this, like really deep and have two lines of defence in front of the box, is because Arsenal are going to have to pass you to death. This is all the passes they're making, these black arrows. So pass. So you go slowly through the lines. Spurs aren't pressing high, they're trying to be deep to absorb it because they know if there's a turnover in midfield, very likely a heavy touch or it's a loose pass, they can snap onto it and break. You can see the difference in styles. Lots of short, sharp passes, lots of movement, interchanges of position. Spurs, very rigid. This is what they're going to do. They're going to get the ball from back to front as quickly as possible. Long passes, direct passes, breaking into space. That's what you want to do. Because if you absorb all the pressure and force Arsenal to play like this, there's very little getting through into the box. There's no space to thread balls into the box to a striker. There's no space. and then eventually what you're going to do is shoot from long range, and you're not going to score if you shoot from long range because the expected goal probability of it is so low, unless you're very good at kicking the ball hard from distance, like Thomas Partey. So this is the goal, and you can see it's everything we're talking about. One wide player left, one wide player right, really far wide because they're pinning the wing backs, stretching the defence a bit. Then the midfielders in the middle can do some work with it. So this is Gabriel number 6, passing wide. The ball's being worked from side to side, patiently waiting for an opening. No opening's going to come, so they go backwards, go back to the left, back into the middle here. There's about 17 passes, something like that in this move. And then it gets to Thomas Partey, who just takes a hit from long range. So this is it. This is it sort of looks like at the time. One wide player here, Saka. The ball's worked all the way across. You can see there's just no space. There's no way to get the ball into Jesus because it's blocked. That pass is blocked from Zinchenko. He can't get it in. He can't get it in here because he's going to block that pass. He can't get it in here because it's blocked. He can't get it here because it's blocked. So there's just no way through. So instead the ball has to go wide like this. And it's just a never-ending movement like this. This is what Conte wants. He wants this. It's a trap. They're trying to absorb it so they can then break with those guys getting forward. But doesn't help when the ball goes from Saka into Partey, who then launches it from there. That's how they score. That's the first goal, and that undoes the entire plan for Spurs. It's absolute nightmare for Conte. You can see it here. That one wide player here, bodies in the box. The clear principles of Arteta's Arsenal with control of the second line. If they're going to break, Arsenal are going to squeeze them in and stop it. Now this goal means that Spurs have to push more to try and get in the game. It's a long game, every game is 90 minutes, but this is long, so you want to wait your time, stick to your tactical plan that you've been talking about, and you'll still get chances to score. They get a penalty, that's how they get back into the game. But then Arsenal come out in the second half, again with the same energy. So all tactical stuff's all relevant, but it's the energy they come into it, the intensity, the aggressiveness they bring. And then when they get into the final third from their slow passing up here, again, what you see, Partey, Zinchenko, and Ben White over here, they've got control of the second line. So if the ball breaks, they're here in charge of it. Saka's wide, Martinelli's wide, it's pinning the wing backs back. It's got 3 players in the middle that can push the defence further back, so they're going to struggle to deal with this. It's 1v1v1 in the middle. But because Ben White leaves this control situation and goes on the overlapping run, because they've got freedom to do that, it means that Saka can come inside, and then he's able to just pound something into the middle of the pitch, and Jesus is then able to finish. But you see, one wide player here, 3 in the middle with control of the second line. Gabriel and Saliba is a little bit further back, just controlling that. So we know exactly what Spurs wanted to do. They wanted to try and absorb and counter, exploit the mistakes. Arsenal wanted to play out from the back, play their nice positional football, get players in the right positions to drag players out, rotate, make all the movements they want, and patiently wait for a chance to get the ball into the back of the net. And they did, and so it worked. So Arteta looks like a genius. But had Spurs scored in the first half, they would have locked this down. And eventually, over time, what happens is that if you're passing the ball from wherever, trying to take shots from there, you get frustrated, the crowd gets frustrated, the opposite team can lock it down, and they come away with one of those smash and grab type wins that managers get. So that's what happened in North London Derby. Arsenal they just look like a really good team, and they are going to be challenging at the top for quite a while, I should think. Very good. And if you enjoyed this analysis, then do please give us a subscribe. It's a button on the screen that you can probably see now. If you haven't done it already, do it now. Why haven't you done it? So you should do that. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.